So, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining today. It is a very broad topic that we have, so we'll try and keep it quite focused. But if we could start by just introducing yourselves briefly for the benefit of the audience.
Happy to meet you all. I'm Julian, originally from Hamburg, now based in Zug in Switzerland. Next generation, a son of a family business. We have been involved a lot with shopping malls in Europe, these days more into hospitality and logistics real estate, but then also diversifying into private equity and other options. Apart from that, I've studied sustainable urban development in Oxford, and my big passion is for sustainability in real estate, where I founded separately from the family business also my own company, where we're doing mostly engineering services with buildings. And actually yesterday, having done also the first project here in Dubai, which I'm quite glad and happy to look more into the region, because I think it's fascinating. We can drive down energy costs here as well.
Thank you. Hi, guys. Good morning. I'm Patrick Sang, the chairman of Sang's Group. We're a fourth generation single family office. We focus on innovation. We also do real estate, but focus on technology. We try to exert positive influence and impact for our investments. I'm also the chairman of founder of the Hong Kong Ambassadors Club, where we try to promote Hong Kong, trying to bridge East to Middle East to West by bringing different kinds of investments and projects to different parts of the world, including the Middle East. We managed to bring 4 delegations to the UAE in the last 6 to 9 months.
Excellent. Thank you. And Hassan.
Hi, good morning. Hassan Al Fardan. I'm the CEO of Al Fardan Group. I'm a third generation member of the Al Fardan family. Very delighted to be with you here today. Our group was established in 1954 prior to the foundation of the Emirates. And I think we're one of the first family businesses in the region to establish a Sharia compliant family trust. So our businesses range from the traditional natural pearl and jewelry business. We also have one of the largest MSBs in the region, Al Fardan Exchange, and we also have a traditional real estate portfolio, and we also invest our funds on behalf of the family. Excited to be here with you today and happy to be part of this panel with my respected colleagues.
So you've all come from quite, let's say, traditional sources of investing, so the real estate, the F&B. So I'd like to talk a little bit later about how that's evolved, but you're also from like third generation or beyond, and we've been speaking about some of the challenges earlier today of succession. How have each of you, or how have each of the family offices, businesses ensured that this succession is successful? And then we can dive into some of the challenges as well.
So in our case, we're coming originally from 1800, so it has been quite a while, and we actually had quite a panicking year when COVID happened, because with shopping malls, it's obviously a massive impact which we had there. Then plus online competition and the rates. Luckily, we were landlords with 10-year contracts, so we could move out of that. But like that was a time where we had to reshift a lot. So we were quite happy with the new investments we did, but back then we had to react. And then there is probably always something happening in family businesses where you at least can react faster. So when I can compare it to corporates, you typically have the problem that there are long decisions going on, internal hierarchy. At least we can react flexible. And that's also, for example, something which we are doing now with the new real estate investment strategy, where we're looking into non-performing assets these days, buying them quite cheap because not that many people are buying, and then transforming them with our engineers and selling them off to institutional funds because their mandate is obliged to have only green buildings. So it's quite a niche sector, which we can do there. But again, it's very reactive, very opportunistic. And I think that's really the secret, like that sometimes family business can endure longer because we can react quicker. And then obviously having the experience. And then a second point for succession is probably like personally, there's always the question if myself, I'm getting more involved in the family business myself. I purposely decided to found my own thing because I wanted to be a little bit more independent, because otherwise you have the issue that there are always internal policies also going on with your father, with your uncle. So in that case, I wanted to have something separate, completely separate also financially and from connections. And I think sometimes that can be very important. Some next generation members might be very willing to take on that step, but others might find their own way and their own passion. And I think it's important for every family business to nurture that.
I share the same thinking as Julian. I was talking to Hassan off stage earlier. I think we evolved from as farmers in Hong Kong. We're 14 generations in Hong Kong. My grandfather moved from Hong Kong to the UK in 1956. One of the first wave of Chinese immigrants to start Chinese restaurants in the UK, and he was the first one to start a Chinese restaurant in Belfast and Dublin in Ireland, which is where I actually was born and raised. So my thinking and so forth is very different to my previous generation and the second generation, my grandfather. So I think one thing that's very real and true for all businesses, whether it's family office or otherwise, we got to keep changing, and change is the only constant. So we've evolved from restaurants to real estate, and about 15 years ago, just after the financial crisis, we started to invest heavily in technology, which is the only thing we invest in now. I think one thing that we don't change is just the core values and the philosophies of what the previous generations have done from a very traditional Asian background. But in terms of the sectors that we look at are very different. So now we're looking at different things from AI to fintech to space tech, and obviously with the recent trend of how the world is going, sustainability, ESG, and obviously with the COP28 coming in the next couple of days in the UAE, we've been heavily investing and looking at different kind of smart city technologies, including solar panels, electric vehicle charging stations, to smart city robotics, and even plant-based foods, which helps to not only create positive impact, but also we can make financial gains from.
Sure. If I can just maybe look back at the reason why really we started to look at structuring. I remember my grandfather, who's the founder of our business, Hassan Ibrahim Al Fardan, came to us and said, I want to make sure that we have a smooth transition from one generation to the other. The start of our business really is very much tied to the main business that was here in the region, in the early 1800s and 1900s, which was the natural pearl trade. That was really the main source of income for many families in the region. So when my grandfather started, it was before really the foundation of the country. So as a result of our flourishing pearl business and having to deal with various currencies, from different traders around the world, my grandfather found himself with a problem that he had to solve. So in 1971, when the country founded, we started Al Fardan Exchange, which is really an extension of our natural pearl trading business. And over time, we ventured into real estate, and we set up our family office. When we decided to set up our trust in 2017, we had just started having discussions with ADGM, and they introduced us to this concept of family trust. So we identified who are the eligible people within our family, people that have the relevant experience, the relevant education, and we segregated the family from the business, and we selected people that we felt had the best qualifications, the right education, to be able to take the company forward. So for us, and I think for many families in the region, they are at that point, considering the amount of wealth that's transitioning amongst generations, that they need to have these conversations. They may be uncomfortable, they may be unpleasant, but it's important to have these discussions with a view to not only allow the business to continue to progress and evolve, but also to allow these families to pass on the mantle to the next generations.
So what stages were all the family businesses at when you decided to set up the official family office? And I think it's interesting, you've mentioned that some family members will not be the best person to come and become involved with the family office, if at all. Like, how do you balance that between family members and external parties? Maybe we start with Hassan and work.
Sure. The selection process has to be very objective. So we set out an eligibility criteria. Depending on have people worked outside the family business, have they do they have the right qualifications? So really, we had to filter out those that we felt were the most I would say capable of taking on these jobs. And sometimes that's not a very nice discussion to have amongst the family, but it is the right decision. It takes a degree, I think, of self-reflection to recognize that either one is perhaps capable or incapable. But also it's important to allow people to give them the opportunity to evolve. If somebody, for instance, may not be eligible at this time, we actually support them. We send them to targeted courses, whether it be a directorship course, a governance course, or a very, very specific, let's say, kind of skill that they need for a particular role. A CFA, if they want to pursue a role, for example, as a CFO, or perhaps a chartered accountant. So really finding what is it that the family members need to progress. It's not about really allowing or not allowing people. It's making sure that the people that have got the right skills, even the right attitude, to be able to take the business forward.
Great question. I think from a Far East standpoint in Asia, we're a lot more traditional and conservative. So the families like to keep the businesses within the family, and sometimes that could be the demise of businesses because, like you said, sometimes the people from your family might not be suitable for the jobs. So I think the reason why a lot of European and American family offices have been very, flourishing, like Julian, since like 200 years, the reason being is they've identified that sometimes you might have to employ or engage a non-family member to be, to professionalize the structuring of how the business is run. And I think if you're able to segregate that into a trust or find professional management, the chances of the business to continue to the next stage is better. Because at the end of the day, it depends on what you want at the end of the day. Is it a company that's going for financial gains, or is there an element where you want part of the family to be part of? I think at the end of the day, you probably need a hybrid model where you do need some family members involved because of that family connection, the passion to sustain the business will be longer, but you also need a check and balance in professional eyes to help you to move the business forward. So what we've done is we've been quite lucky to do what we've done, which is to keep changing, evolving to do better. But we've hired a lot of people from outside to help with the business.
And I guess what you mentioned about the families, that helps to ensure that the values are also retained as part of the investment philosophy.
And in our case, it's very much also a question of competence. Who is educated in what field, and then we are trying also to differentiate in the investment committee who is deciding what for a specific sector. So that you're getting a little bit less into discussions or arguments in terms of like who is responsible for what. And in my case with the sustainability sector, this was actually the hardest pitch, the hardest sell to my own family. So, and I think that's quite common also in others, that whenever you as a next generation are coming up with a new disrupting idea, it's quite hard to integrate. But these days it worked out, as I've mentioned previously. Suddenly they adopted that model into their own investment process, that we are now doing this niche strategy in terms of transforming buildings. Another thing which I see more these days, which we haven't done, but I think in Europe it's quite a phenomenon, that sometimes also now family members from another family business are going into another one, because exactly as you said, there are sometimes also the external advisors or members, but often that hasn't worked out properly. It's because the issue is, how would you get an external member? Ideally, if there's a trust, then it's a different issue. But if it's just like from a headhunter, headhunters would look for experience only. And people typically have experience as a competitor in a different sector, but not with a family business. So it's much more important to have the emotional connection to all the family members and to deal with that. And that's probably something where we have more experience with and can have that. I think in the end, it comes down to that you're really positioning yourself properly in that, and can deal with all the different extra factors, because we're obviously privileged if we decide to get ourselves involved in the family business as well. But in the end, it's nothing different. So you have to be successful from your very own kind and from your own experience and competence, and just use the resources better. But if someone is not that engaged, then it might be better to have a more passive role.
Actually, let's talk a little bit more about those shared family resources. We heard from Sriram from Maras earlier today about how they're more and more looking at partnering with other family offices and investment firms. I'd love to talk a bit on the deal sourcing side. Are you partnering with other family offices? Is this something that you're seeing increasing? And what do you look for? Sorry, this is a very long, convoluted question. And what do you look for with your co-investment partners?
So it's a little bit like a marriage if you're doing a club investment together. So first of all, we are a single family office. It's just our investment, and that's a principle. If it's obviously a ticket size which is much higher and we want to get the deal, then sometimes in exceptions we co-invest. But it is not easy. I think it sounds easier in theory, but like it really has to work, because then you have basically two strong egos typically coming together, and that might create issues. So we have seen deals which on the paper they look perfect, but then it didn't work out because someone had a personal problem with it. So club investments can work out for sure, but it is very much a question that you know each other better. It should be not only on the purpose of achieving that higher ticket size, common values, a common goal is quite important. And in the end, it's kind of forming a team. You're not as operative together, but you're investors together. So that's one thing. And then deal sourcing is obviously still very much coming from a network. I think that's also the big advantage of family offices, because there's intransparency in the market, and we benefit from that. So, and we don't have the resources to have 100 financial analysts getting through all the analysis. So in our case, it's really finding the niche opportunities and also investing against trends. I think that's also super important. Venture capital funds these days are typically going into one mainstream direction. We tend to look for something which is completely new. And that's obviously the best investment if it works out.
For us, I think partnerships are key to what we do. I think not only just in business, but in life, it's all about partnerships. We can't do everything on our own. We do a lot of club deals. We co-invest with a lot of our friends and other fellow family offices. The reason being is sometimes we might not have the expertise in AI or biotech. Then we lend our, we borrow our expertise from some of our friends, and vice versa. Sometimes when we lead the deals, then the other family offices will just follow. Our tagline for Sangs Group is think global, be local. What it means is that we have to think big, very global, like what Abu Dhabi is. But at the same time, if you don't have the local on the ground partnership with people like Hassan that work with us, we might not understand the local trades, cultures, and what people are really thinking. Like, for example, in China, for a foreigner to do business without a local partner, 9 times out of 10, you'll lose your money, because you need a local partner to help you guide through and navigate the various difficulties and challenges. So we are all for co-investing and working together with our partners.
Thank you. Perhaps maybe building on what Julian and Patrick said, which I agree with very much. I think when I look at the sheer richness and breadth of family offices we have in the region, so really I think we are spoiled for choice, and we try to work with families that have a very similar risk profile that we do, and also are looking to invest in the same sectors that we do. I mean, we're very heavy on financial services, and we invest synergistically to our core business. So, and I look at, for example, forums like the ADGM, whereby you have some of the best money managers in the world now setting up shop here, offering more and more opportunities for us. So we're very much focused on financial services, and we will continue to invest with families in the region here.
Excellent. And we just have a few minutes left, and I'd love to just close by looking at, you've mentioned at how you have evolved. You're now looking at more sustainability, technology, impact. Where do you see, or what excites you most in the investment world right now? And you have 1 minute each.
I'm definitely fascinated by combining profitability and sustainability. And this is still not that much on the agenda. So you have obviously sustainability now as a big topic, but it's mostly associated with costs. Not too many people are getting into the technical details, how you have a return on investment after 2 years, what is an easy installation of technical appliances. So a very selective approach, what is actually worth it to have a proper business, still excites me a lot. And the biggest purpose behind this is the nature and biodiversity. In the free time, I love to hike all over the world, long distances. That really makes me happy. And I feel like linking that to the previous discussion of Christian, that's also one way how you can become more happy to connect more with the nature, because in the end, that's where we're coming from. And sometimes with all our artificial surroundings, we forget that. So if we can become more focused on that and combining that with our economic model, then we have very excited times ahead. And if AI is taking some of the tools which we are normally using off from us, that we have more free time for that, it's amazing, because in the end, biodiversity has brought us that far, and we should definitely appreciate that.
So sustainability is a very integral part of our strategy for the forthcoming years. On the December 8th, we have a Hong Kong Climate Day at COP28, where we have a booth in the Blue Zone. We're actually showcasing 3 of our portfolio companies. One is called Rice Robotics, which is a leading smart robotics company that from Hong Kong, and we're expanding into the MENA region. The second company is A-Grade Energy, which is a leading raw materials energy solution provider. And then lastly but not least, Green Monday, which is the leading Asian plant-based food tech company that we're bringing also to the region. So we're also trying to combine, like what Julian said, profitability with sustainability. So we're always looking for projects that can provide, positive impact and beyond to what we do.
From our point of view, we look at sustainability quite closely within the Al Fardan Exchange business. Now, as a business, one of our core, principles is that we are trying to drive financial inclusion within the transient population of the United Arab Emirates. So we are working very closely with certain AI-based technologies to develop a solution to address, the last mile journey of our transient customer base. For us, we're not only trying to drive financial inclusion, we're trying to drive digitally led financial inclusion by bringing more digitally excluded people into the foray of financial services via digital solutions. So we'll be making announcements, inshallah, publicly about these solutions very soon.
Excellent. Well, gentlemen, thanks so much. That was a great optimistic note to end on as well. Please thank my wonderful panelists, Julian, Patrick, and Hassan, for joining us today.